So today is a big day because my single largest CGC submission in a couple of years just showed up at the house earlier today, and you want to see what I picked up. But I'm also going to reveal a little secret that I have been keeping from you guys related to CGC, and I'm going to let you know what the details are in this video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. As you just heard in that intro, we are going to unbox some books that have shown up from CGC. And I will tell you that there are a lot of books here, and the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to show you a bunch of the books that I am going to make available. And then I'm also going to show you those books a little bit later that are actually going to stay in my collection. And then I'll also show you that little secret that I've been keeping from people. And I think it's a pretty cool secret, so you definitely want to stay tuned for that. One of the things that people always ask me about whenever I do an unboxing of any type, people are always like, when did you send your books in? So based upon the data that I just looked at, because I had to refresh my memory, these books were basically sent in at the very end of October. Some of them were received on, I want to say, the 21st. Some were on the 27th of October. I did have these books all cleaned and pressed by CGC as well, so I think that the books had clearly arrived before that, but they went through that whole process, and by the time they were actually received by CGC was basically the end of October. So I can't remember the exact dates, to be completely honest. One of my philosophies when it comes to submission is send it and forget it. That it's hard to do, but it is one of the best pieces of advice that I could offer up to anybody when it comes to third-party grading. But the books are back. I've already looked at the grades, and I think the grades are pretty awesome. There's a couple here that are a little bit of a shocker, just because I wanted a higher grade, but I completely understand why I received the grade that I did. Without any further ado, let's dig into this first book. And this is a book, I actually found 2 copies of this in my 100K collection. And I sold one of them off on regiecollects.com already, thinking that I had the 9.8 in my hand. And no, it didn't turn out the way. This is Veronica, issue number 28. It came back at a 9.2 with white pages. Looking at the notes, there's definitely some things that I missed. And I missed some things on the back side of this book. I just did not take a close look at it, and there's no one to blame but me, because when you look at it, you can see the defects. But it came back at a 9.2 white pages. I just thought that this was a really cool Archie comic that I found in the collection. So that's part of the reason why I had it slabbed. I will tell you that that book has, at a 9.8, it has a pretty high FMV, a fair market value. So I was really hopeful that I was going to get a high grade, but that did not happen in this case. This is another book that, it's a cool book. I will tell you that. I'm a fan of Wolverine and always have been, and I have several different copies of Wolverine books in the stacks that I'm going to show you. But this is not one of my favorites. It's an ongoing series, but it's not a fantastic read. It's not terrible, but Wolverine issue number 1, a 9.6 with white pages. And this is, of course, the first Wolverine as Patch. So cool book right here. The back cover pinup by John Byrne right there on the back side of that. So definitely a cool book. This book can be a little tough on that back cover because it is black on that one side. Next up, I think I have another Wolverine. Yep, another Wolverine here, but this is actually one of my favorite Wolverine titles. This is the limited series. This one, solid read, great cover on this thing. This is a 9.8 with white pages, and this is the first solo series for Wolverine, of course, and this one's really cool. A little bit of Frank Miller action and Chris Claremont on that one, so cool book. Another Wolverine book here, And they're not all the same. I will tell you that. There are a lot of duplicates, I will tell you. This is another Wolverine issue number 1. This one actually came back at a 9.6. I want to say that there was one other, but I'll show you that one a little bit later because that one's actually going to stay in the personal collection. Here's a cool book that I actually recently talked about on the Go Collect speculation recap that I do. This is New Mutants issue number 87, the first appearance of Cable. This one came back at a 9.6 with white pages. Very thankful that a lot of the books that came out of the 100K collection are coming back with white pages. So that is really, really cool. A lot of these books, you guys may have seen them in other videos, were actually in some cases double bagged and double boarded. And what I mean by that, there were boards on the front of the book and behind the book, and sometimes those books were even placed in multiple bags as well, so they were well protected in many ways. To that point, here's another New Mutants 87, another 9.6 with white pages. From the collection, I have pulled out a lot of these New Mutants 87. And also the first appearance of Deadpool. I think there were a healthy number of both of those in the collection because the previous owner definitely believed in those books and first appearances in general. This right here is a really, really cool book. When I spotted this one in the collection, I was very pumped about this because I have been a He-Man fan for a very long time. So this one is DC Comics Presents issue number 47, and this is the first appearance of He-Man and Skeletor in comics. So this one is cool. They're right on the cover. I have not read this story. I will tell you, I have not read it. I want to read it, but this one takes me right back to my childhood. And I recently watched an episode of He-Man on the YouTube machine with my children. And my daughter always likes to ask me whether I watch these shows as a little baby. That is her phrasing. And I was like, yes, baby. Dad did watch it as a little baby. Here's another copy. This one actually came back at a 9.4, but also with white pages. Again, a really cool yellow cover featuring a nostalgic character right there. So we'll stack that off to the side. And a little bit of deja vu here. This one is actually a 9.2 of the exact same book. So no need to belabor that point. And we're going to switch gears here. There's a healthy number of this next one here. I'm actually going to move some things around here on the desk so I can make some room. This is Batman 386. This is the origin and first appearance of the Black Mask. And this is a book that I actually did read because I was curious as to who the Black Mask was. So I took some time to read this one. Not the best story, not the worst story, but a really cool book, 9.8 with white pages on this one. And then, as I mentioned, there is a nice stack. There's another that came back at a 9.8. There is a 9.6 as well of that one. And then next up, we're going to keep it going with a little bit of Batman here. And this one is Batman 357. This is the first full appearance of Killer Croc and also Jason Todd. This one came back 9.8 white pages. Really cool book. If you guys have watched my content before, you probably know that I've actually given this book away several times from the channel as one of the giveaways that I do sponsored by Go Collect. I've given this book away at least 3 times. So thankful that I was able to find multiple copies of this one in the collection. And I'll also do a little bit of a plug here. If you guys haven't yet, for some reason or another, subscribe to the channel, I definitely want to encourage you to do that because it actually makes you, keeps you abreast of all the content that comes out from the channel, but it also makes you eligible for the various giveaways that I do. So a couple more copies of that Batman 357. Those are all 9.8s, and then there's also a couple of 9.6s in here as well. So I'll tell you, what happened is that I actually received multiple shipments today, multiple boxes from both FedEx and UPS because of the types of books that I ended up sending into CGC. So you're about to see a couple of books that you've already seen before. This is not a repeat. It is just a different box that I'm going in. And so to that point, there is a 9.6 here of the ongoing Wolverine series. I think you've already seen at least one 9.6. Here is a 9.8 of that exact same series. Next up, we're going to take a look at what I think is a really cool book. And it's a cool book because it is a tribute book specifically to the World Trade Center and 9/11. And this is Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, issue number 36. A really, really tough book, mostly because of this black cover, which shows everything. And in this case, it actually has a nice little spine tick right here that prevented this book from getting a 9.8. But it did get a 9.6 with white pages. And I actually sent in 2 copies of that book. Both of them came back 9.6s with white pages. Next up is a book that I've actually had. I think I've had this book 4 times already. This is Wolverine Volume 3, issue number 66. This is where the Old Man Logan story actually starts. And so if you buy enough collections, there are certain books that will find their way to you time and time again. So in this case, I actually had 2 copies of that. So we'll go ahead and set that to the side. And I will tell you, all of these books that we've just looked at are basically going to be available on my website, regiecollects.com. So I will definitely throw that out there. So the next stack of books that we're going to look at are books that are going to stay in my personal collection. For the most part, I think. Some of these may find their way to the website as well. But I think that these are going to stay with me. This first one is Marvel Superheroes Volume 2, issue number 8. And this is actually the first appearance of Squirrel Girl. And it's just a fun cover. I don't know a thing about Squirrel Girl, to be honest with you, but I dig the cover of this one. I actually found multiple copies of this in the collection. Many of them were actually damaged and would have received a grade much lower than this 9.4. So I did not send those in. I still have those books raw in the collection, but thankfully it did get white pages. So that's really cool. You guys just saw this book a few seconds ago. This is that same Spider-Man book, the tribute to 9/11. Again, 9.6 white pages right there. Again, another book that you just saw a few moments ago, because again, when I send books in, sometimes I keep a copy for myself because I think that they're really cool books, and there's a couple in here that I'm actually going to keep. One of them is the first appearance of He-Man and Skeletor in comics. This is actually a 9.6 white pages. I was hopeful one of the books would get a 9.8, but the ball did not bounce my way on that one. But it did bounce my way on this next book. This is one that you have seen before with a slight twist. This is Batman 357, but it is a newsstand and it is a 9.8 with white pages. So really, really cool book right here. I decided that I'd keep this one because I thought that was cool. I don't know what percent of the market at the time this book came out in 1983 was still newsstand versus direct. I honestly don't know. But, again, a newsstand can be a hard book to find at a 9.8, just generally speaking. So next up, again, a book that you guys have seen before. Can't remember if you saw a 9.8 or not, but this is the first appearance of Black Mask. Batman 386 came back 9.8 with white pages. And I alluded to this book earlier, Wolverine, issue number 1. Love this book, 9.8 white pages. I think I have a copy of this in the collection already. But again, just a really cool book and one of my favorite Wolverines around. Next up, this is a book I want to say I have a 9.6 in the collection already, and I sent these in with the hope of getting at least one back at a 9.8 so that I could keep it in the collection. Sure enough, New Mutants 87, 9.8, really cool book. Also, white pages right there. So definitely like that one. And did I keep 2 of these? I need to check. I may have given myself an extra copy. Another Wolverine, issue number 1. This is a 9.8 white pages. And then the very last book that I'll show you guys that is staying in the personal collection is this one right here. I only found a single copy of this book. This is DC Comics Presents issue number 26. And this is the first appearance of the new Teen Titans in a preview. And it also is the first appearance of Cyborg. And this is a cover that I have seen everywhere, all across social media and lots of different YouTube videos. This is a book that I've wanted. I was pleased when I found it, and it'll find a wonderful home in my collection at a 9.6 with white pages. So there you go. Those are essentially the books that have come back. So as I alluded to earlier in this video, I have been keeping a secret, and thankfully I'm in a position to actually talk about that secret right now. A few months ago, the folks at CGC reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to send them some books to have them grade so that I could experience some new custom labels that they were coming out with. And I was able to see these labels in advance. I was able to pick a couple of books and then send in to them, and those books have actually come back. And I know that a lot of folks love these custom labels, and I think a while ago CGC retired a bunch of labels, and people have been asking, so when are the new labels coming? They are coming, and I do believe that after Christmas 2020, they will be releasing some information on the availability of these labels. I only have a couple of them to show you. There are a few more that are coming, but I'm waiting for those books to arrive so that I can share those with you. But I do have a small stack that I'm going to share with you guys right now. And I do believe that these labels are all going to be $5 each, which is basically the cost that they've been charging all along. So the very first one that is on the stack here is a really cool one. And I could not help but smile when I saw this label. And I smiled because of the character that was on the label, but also because I recently found the perfect book for that label in my 100K collection, that being Miles Morales. And so Ultimate Fallout issue number 4 came back, 9.6 white pages with the wonderful Miles Morales custom logo. So this thing looks incredible. I really do dig this label and the way that it presents with the book. So next up is this one. I chuckled when I saw this. I chuckled because I thought it was cute, but then I also realized that I might be a little challenged. And I was a little challenged because I wasn't certain if I had the perfect book at my disposal in order to actually send in for the label. Thankfully, I was able to find a really nice copy of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 611 to go with this Scotty Young custom label. And up at the top, you can see, the style that is Scotty Young. And it's, of course, offset with his cover on Amazing Spider-Man issue number 611. So really, really cool stuff. This book also came back at a 9.8 with white pages. So really cool thing. I'm actually going to try to put a little video clip at the end of this video to show you guys these labels a little closer so that you can check them out. So I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to be excited about this next label. And I think that they're going to be excited about it because people absolutely love Noel. And he is coming to his own label at CGC. So this is Venom issue number 3, came back at a 9.8. You can see the wonderful depiction of Noel up here in the corner, offsetting the book. And what's cool about these custom labels is that on the back, they actually put the details that are typically found on the front of this thing. And so on the back, you can see there's some information about the creators over here, and then information about the book. Specifically in this case, the first full appearance of Null, and also an appearance of Miles Morales. So really cool book. Really pleased that this one came back at a 9.8. I picked up that book off of the shelf, and very thankful for that grade. So there are a couple of more, couple of more books here, but one more custom label that I'll show you. And I kind of took a shot on goal with this last one because of what was depicted on the label. I kind of wanted a good book to send in, but I was torn as to which book to send in, but also because one of those books was a little suspect. And so I sent in two, thinking that one of them should be fine, and sure enough, one of them was okay. So I'll show you that book first, and then I'll show you the other. This one here is Silver Surfer, issue number 3. And the label, of course, is Jack Kirby's Silver Surfer right here. And really cool book. This is a tough book. It is a square bound book. I don't know if this book had been bagged and boarded. So you can see here we're looking at cream to off-white pages, but it did come back at a 4.5. And again, on the back side, we have some great details about the legendary creators that were involved with this one. And then also the fact that this is the first appearance of Mephisto over on this side. So really, really cool book, square bound book. It's a big one, and this is definitely a thick case to accommodate this thick book. So this one is another cool book that is in the collection. I actually have the full run of volume 1 of the Silver Surfer, all out of the 100K collection. So as I mentioned, there was at least one book that was a little suspect, and it is probably the nicest cover out of that run of Silver Surfer. This one unfortunately came back restored. I am not disappointed, to be honest with you, because it's still a cool book. It was a lower grade book to begin with, and so no big deal, right? This one is Silver Surfer issue number 4, came back 2.5, just like the other one, cream to off-white pages, because again, I don't know if these were bagged and boarded over time. But this is a really cool book, really cool cover right here. This one actually has some restoration. A small amount of glue was applied to the cover, but a really cool book, lower grade book for certain. You can see this book has lots of cover creases. It has been loved, let me tell you that. But the spine is still at a 90-degree angle, so you can't be mad about that. So there you have it. That is essentially my largest haul that I have done in a couple of years out of CGC. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, I certainly want to encourage you to leave a comment behind, hit the thumbs up button, and then if you haven't subscribed, I again want to encourage you to do that so that you can stay abreast of all the content that I release from the channel. Take care.